Long before today's tensions between Iran and Israel, Persia and the Jewish people shared one of the most remarkable and often forgotten relationships in the history of the ancient world. While modern headlines speak of hostility, missile threats, and ideological conflict, the deeper story goes back over 2,500 years, to a time when Persia was not a rival of the Jewish people, but their protector, even their liberator. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenid Empire and one of the most visionary rulers of antiquity, entered the city of Babylon without bloodshed and changed the course of Jewish history forever. Unlike other ancient conquerors, Cyrus did not seek revenge on the peoples his empire absorbed. Instead, he respected their gods, their traditions, and their identities. He issued a decree allowing the Jewish exiles, held in Babylonian captivity since the destruction of the first temple by Nebuchadnezzar, to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. This was not just an act of political strategy. It was a profound gesture of religious tolerance that earned him legendary status in Jewish memory. So extraordinary was this moment that the Hebrew Bible calls Cyrus a Mashiach, the Anointed One, a term traditionally reserved for Jewish kings appointed by God. Cyrus remains the only non-Jew in the Bible to be referred to in such a way. The book of Isaiah refers to him explicitly as an instrument of divine will. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped. Isaiah 45:1. This prophetic designation has echoed across centuries of Jewish thought. In modern times, Cyrus is still remembered with admiration. The Cyrus cylinder, an ancient clay artifact inscribed with his policies of tolerance, is often called the world's first declaration of human rights, and a replica was even gifted to the United Nations and displayed there as a symbol of international justice. But the alliance between Persia and the Jews would not remain so ideal. Just a century later, under the reign of Cyrus's descendant, Xerxes I, known in the Hebrew Bible as Ahasuerus, the Jewish people faced one of their darkest threats, the story told in the Book of Esther. In this tale, a powerful advisor to the king, Haman, plots to exterminate all Jews across the Persian Empire. His hatred is personal, but his plan is systemic, to wipe out an entire people through royal decree. Yet salvation comes through the courage and wisdom of Queen Esther, a Jewish woman hidden in the royal palace, and her cousin Mordecai, who urges her to speak up, even at the risk of her life. Esther exposes Haman's scheme to Xerxes, who reverses the decree and punishes the conspirator. The story ends in dramatic triumph and is still commemorated each year during the Jewish festival of Purim, a celebration of survival, identity, and the power of resistance from within. This dramatic shift, from liberation under Cyrus to the near genocide under Haman, reflects a broader truth about Jewish-Persian relations, a relationship full of complexity, alternating between protection and persecution. Across the centuries, Jews continued to live in Persian lands, and their experience shifted with the rise and fall of empires. Under the Sasanian Empire, 3rd to 7th century CE, Jews in Persia experienced both cultural flourishing and moments of repression. Jewish academies in Babylonia became centers of scholarship and law, producing the Babylonian Talmud, a foundational text of Jewish tradition. But there were also periods of religious tension, especially when political leaders sought to assert Zoroastrian orthodoxy or suppress perceived rivals. With the Islamic conquest of Persia in the 7th century, Jews were granted dhimmi status. As people of the book, they were permitted to practice their religion, but were subject to social and legal restrictions, such as higher taxes and limits on public expression. During certain Islamic dynasties, notably the Safavid Empire, 16th to 18th century, treatment of Jews worsened, and forced conversions, pogroms, and discrimination were not uncommon. Yet even in these periods, Jewish communities persisted, maintaining their traditions, synagogues, schools, and rituals, a sign of resilience despite adversity. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, under the Qajar and Pahlavi dynasties, Iran's Jewish population began to modernize and integrate more openly into Persian society. Schools were established, communities prospered, and ties with world Jewry strengthened. At the time of Reza Shah and later his son Mohammad Reza Shah, Iran and the nascent state of Israel even developed quiet diplomatic and economic ties. In the 1950s and 60s, Israel and Iran cooperated closely on trade, agriculture, and even military matters. Iran's Jewish community, numbering over 100,000 people, was one of the largest and most vibrant in the Muslim world. However, since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, which overthrew the Iranian monarchy and established an Islamic Republic, relations between Iran and Israel have become deeply adversarial. The new regime broke with the Shah's previous policy of quiet cooperation with Israel and adopted an ideological stance that rejected Israel's legitimacy. In this new context, although Iran's constitution formally guarantees the rights of religious minorities, including Jews, a large portion of the Jewish population emigrated in the years that followed. Today, an estimated 8,000 to 10,000 Jews remain in Iran, primarily in cities like Tehran, Shiraz, and Isfahan, where they continue to maintain synagogues, schools, and community institutions under close state oversight. Israel, in turn, views Iran's regional policies and nuclear activities as significant security concerns. Despite decades of tension and the absence of diplomatic relations, the deeper historical connection between the Jewish people and Persian civilization, rooted in episodes of tolerance, such as under Cyrus the Great, remains part of shared cultural memory, reminding us that the current conflict is shaped by modern geopolitics rather than ancient enmity.